Good afternoon, everyone. We are pleased to welcome you to the official launch of the Solar and Renewable Energy Fund under the USAID Trade and Investment Facilitation Project, or TIF project as we call it, in partnership with IM Ventures. My name is Danny Maalouli. I'm the head of investments at the USAID TIF project. I would like to start by extending a warm welcome to His Excellency Mr. George Bouchikian, Minister of Industry, His Excellency Dr. Walid Fayad, Minister of Energy and Water, on his way, His Excellency Dr. Nasser Yassin, Minister of Environment, also on his way, Her Excellency U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon, Ms. Dorothy Shea, His Excellency Dutch Ambassador to Lebanon, Mr. Hans-Peter van der Wood, USAID Lebanon Acting Mission Director, Mr. Nicholas Vivio, and the rest of the USAID delegation. Our partners at USAID Lebanon Investment Initiative, EU delegation, DFI representatives, UN representatives, financial institutions, heads of associations and syndicates, investment funds, and representatives of leading enterprises in Lebanon private sector. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome all. Before we begin, we would like to invite you to stand for both the Lebanese and American national anthem. Please join me in welcoming the Chief of Party of TIF Project, Mr. Mark Rostel. Mark's speech will be followed by a video that summarizes Lebanon energy crisis, which is why we are all here today, to launch this much-needed fund and its expected impact as voiced by leading enterprises in Lebanon.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the launch of our USAID Lebanon Solar and Renewable Energy Fund in partnership with Beretech and IM Ventures. Reflecting on the genesis of our fund, I think back to my two and a half years in Lebanon as I'm asked the same questions whenever I meet a Lebanese businessman, excuse me, or woman. They ask me, how's Lebanon? How are you surviving? Is it difficult? Is there hope? And just now out there, someone asked me, how are you surviving amidst the chaos? Over my past 30 years as a contractor for USAID in the financial sector on long-term assignments in Central Asia, the Caucasus, Russia, Ukraine, East Africa, and now Lebanon, together we've developed a financial sector playbook. After the fall of the Soviet Union in the very early 1990s, banks weren't banks, they were cash warehouses, with money flowing in from previously owned and recently privatized state assets. What did USAID ask us to do as contractors? Train banks on credit risk management to unlock deposits and intermediate funds from these cash warehouses into loans. Around the same time, NGOs began this thing that's now commonplace called microfinance. Microfinance was bubbling up from 4 pioneering cradles of innovation: Bangladesh with Grameen, Indonesia with BRI, Bolivia with Accion, and Kenya with KREP. In 1990, USAID financed a groundbreaking project called Growth and Equity Through Microenterprise Investments and Institutions, Gemini. That landmark project produced a series of analyses and recommendations that led to substantial USAID investment in technical assistance and grants for loan capital. Next, USAID helped many of these NGOs convert into commercial banks. Next, USAID guaranteed loans to NGO MFIs, MFI banks, and commercial banks. Next, USAID supported MFIs to move upmarket to finance SMEs, and banks to move down market from corporates to SMEs. Next, it was agriculture finance, followed by mobile money. Throughout these transitions, as local needs changed, USAID was at the forefront of pioneering innovations with their local private sector partners, and let's not forget regulators, including central banks, ministries of finance, and pension funds. 10 years ago, USAID moved into the next financial sector frontier to partner with the investment community. In 2014, USAID launched a series of trade and investment projects. At that time, transaction advisory was non-existent for companies below very large, well-established corporates that had access to investment banks and their expensive services. In Kenya, there were no transaction advisors. Our partners, who is with us today, Cross Boundary, was the first transaction advisor at that time. Today in Kenya, at my last count, there's more than 20 transaction advisors. Also back then, there were 3 funds anchored in Nairobi. Today, there are 50 plus funds. 10 years later, it has one of the most vibrant and robust investment ecosystem among the world of frontier markets. Next, USAID launched Invest, a worldwide investment project, and recently ATI, the Africa Trade and Investment Project. Let's not forget Power Africa, a USAID initiative to support investment into solar, wind, hydro, and biomass. In Beirut, when people ask me those questions I mentioned earlier, I think, USAID Lebanon Trade and Investment Facilitation Project. That sounds familiar. And having been around long enough to have worked through these various progressions of USAID financial sector support, I refer to our playbook from the last 30 years. So what's the situation in Lebanon? Commercial banking sector is not working. Okay, we've been there. There's a nascent investment ecosystem. Very few funds are present. Okay, we've been there. We have entrepreneurial people and businesses starved of capital. Okay, been there. There's power instability and unreliability. Okay. When Tbilisi and Kiev fell out of line with Moscow, Moscow turned off the gas and electricity. Okay, been there. There are leading edge companies with worldwide networks in Lebanon. That's new and something we can build on here. There's well-connected, engaged, and deep-pocketed diaspora willing to invest. That's also new and exciting. So what's our playbook in Lebanon? Build out an investment ecosystem alongside the defunct banking sector that's years away from a safe and sound return until public confidence is restored, starting with transaction advisors to prove investment is possible. When we started in 2020, we began with Cross Boundary. We added another one in 2022. This year, we're adding 3 more and possibly a 4th and 5th. Funds, we're starting with our Solar and Renewable Energy Fund. We also have a handful of others in the pipeline. Last year, we began supporting a greenfield factoring, reverse factoring business to support imports and exports, primarily in agriculture. Within the next couple of months, we're planning to launch a social impact fund with Elfinar, a UK-based NGO. Diaspora. We're about to finalize a diaspora finance and investment strategy. Over the past 12 months, we've seen more and more diaspora expressing interest to invest back into their country, but this time, and unlike in the past, diaspora want to earn a positive financial return on their invested capital. The Solar and Renewable Energy Fund. Using USAID resources, we're catalyzing the fund with $2 million that will be matched by another $2 million from IM for a total starting point of $4 million. On the back of that capital, we'll work to leverage and blend additional private sector capital in excess of $20 million. In closing, I'll mention 3 points. First, I began with a trip down memory lane because I wanted to emphasize that our work to create a parallel financial sector will be a long-term effort, just as it has been since USAID began its financial sector journey 30 plus years ago. Our fund, which we pegged at 20 million, but hope to exceed, is merely a starting point. We know the need is great, but we need to be patient and persistent. Success will beget success. Second, you probably noticed I haven't mentioned companies. Having financed companies throughout my career, I've looked at companies like I do a car sitting idle without fuel in its tank. Fuel the tank and the car will move. Finance the company and it will move. Without finance, the company won't move. It's as simple as that. Third, I called my son last night. He's a research analyst in the Chemicals, Agriculture, and Energy Division at Piper Sandler, a U.S. investment bank. When we were speaking, I asked him, what should I invest in? He told me in the next 5 to 10 years, solar. Solar because 15 years ago, coal cost 7 to 14 cents per kilowatt hour, natural gas 7 to 10 cents, wind 15 cents, solar $1. As of yesterday morning, he said, fossil fuels cost 15 to 17 cents, wind 6 cents, solar 4 cents. He went on to say, and with solar, there's no need to fight the environmentalists in court every single day to produce it or pipelines to build it. Coal is dead, it just hasn't been buried yet. And according to the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, using fossil fuels contributes 3.4 cents in adverse human health impacts and 2.2 cents in climate-related damage. So, it makes sense for USAID and Lebanon to invest in solar. Thank you.
Under the crippling economic and financial crises, Lebanese businesses of all sizes face a myriad of challenges that threaten their survival. The dearth of continuous and reliable energy supplies and the high cost of diesel are their primary threat that must be overcome so that businesses can operate steadily.
The energy cost used to represent, before the crisis, around 5% of the cost structure of a company. Today it is representing around 15%. And this is why we are not competitive.
There is, however, light at the end of the tunnel as USAID Lebanon works to create alternative financial solutions given the scarcity of financial services and near unavailability of commercial loans.
As a project funded by the United States Agency for International Development, we are confronted with the problem of how to support businesses struggling during the energy crisis in Lebanon. We came up with the idea to create an energy fund to help businesses finance clean and renewable energy solutions so that they could reduce the cost of their power consumption, so then in turn they'd be able to sustain jobs, create jobs, increase exports, and then that in turn, that success would beget more success, and then others would continue to invest into the sector so that more investment would come in, so that businesses could then continue to grow and more businesses would be financed.
This is the first project of its kind. We're very excited about it because it is bringing together a lot of added value to the economy. It's efficient, it's environmental friendly, and it's cost effective. And I'm sure that we're going to set the trend for many other funds to come and invest into what nature has best to offer for us, which is the sun.
والفكرة يعني اللي عم تنحط يلي هي بمحلها 100% صائبة بقطاع الصناعة. بدل ما تستثمروا هالسنة سنتين بالمكانات، استثمروا بالطاقة، لأنه هيدي رح تعطيكم القوة والاندفاع بالمرحلة السنين اللي جاية.
Just by solving this problem, which is the energy problem, you can increase the competitiveness of the company, hence increase the job market and grow the economy again.
USAID initiative comes to fill a market gap and needs, the lack of financing, much needed at the moment and appreciated. It helps increasing productivity, decreasing operational cost, helps in job creation, energy security, and price stability, and most importantly, long-term environmental benefits.
We want the future of Lebanon to be built on the foundations of sustainability. We want the recovery to be green. And all of those initiatives are actually taking us in that direction. This country has a lot of potential. We have also our green and environmental assets and natural capital that we need to also protect and build on.
In that context, finding the partners for finding the funding sources, lending institutions, possibly also equity providers to address the needs of clients of such solar projects becomes essential in enabling the growth.
We fully expect our new fund launched today will create much-needed demonstration that will pull into Lebanon other new funds, investors, and capital that will light the country.
Welcome, Your Excellencies, Dr. Yassin and Dr. Fayad. Thank you, Mark. And now I would like to welcome Mr. Maroun Shammas, Chairman of Beritech and Chief of Party of USAID Lebanon Investment Initiative.
Thank you, Donnie. Good evening. It's 6 p.m. So today is a very important day, and I'm going to tell you a story. In 2008, Beritech launched the first venture capital fund. It was a $6 million fund, and it was the first of its kind. Beritech, as you know, is an initiative of the St. Joseph University. And the purpose of the fund at that time was to demonstrate that in Lebanon, we can create technology, not just be a user and a consumer of technology. And why I'm saying that today is important? Because today is also a milestone. A few months ago, when the crisis was at its peakest, I sat with Nicolas Rouhana, Dr. Rouhana, that you're going to see in a few minutes, and we started discussing how we can improve and be more efficient and involve the situation. So at the time, it was just an idea, but thanks to USAID and thanks to all the team of Beritech Foundation and IM Venture and IM Capital, we are able today to celebrate what is, in my opinion, one of the milestones of Lebanon for 2023. And I'm saying that in all confidence because I think that today will be the start of entrepreneurs and at the same time of VCs and people who want to invest in Lebanon, who believe in Lebanon for the future of Lebanon. So by these remarks, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. the Ambassador, Lebanon's energy crisis is so famous or infamous, it needs no introductions. The frequent power outages, high energy costs, and significant dependence on important fuels have been our reality for a few decades, a challenge that has been significantly amplified in the recent crisis. This does not only cause inconvenience and frustrations, the power cuts and the things like that for the people, but also create challenges for businesses, high cost of operations, and hinders economic growth. In 2022, some 2 million tons of diesels were imported for the private generator usage. Inefficiency par excellence for a country that enjoys 300 days of sun, continuous sun. The current situation called for measures, and this is where Beritech, an innovative company, an innovative structure, comes into play through its subsidiary IM Capital and along with IM Venture, who are committed to create sustainable ways of living. Thanks to the support of funding provided by the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, that in turn is committed to supporting renewable energy in Lebanon. Investing in renewable energy will help reduce our dependence on imported fuels, hence energy costs, and at the same time, it will contribute to promote a sustainable future for Lebanon. It will create new job opportunities and will promote economic growth. Implementing the Solar Renewable Energy Fund is a first of its kind and a much-needed fund. It is a starting point which will provide Lebanese companies with a power supply and increase energy efficiency. This fund of $4 million is co-seed with $2 million from the USAID Lebanon Investment Initiative, LII, through IM Venture, with a matching of $2 million from IM Capital. It is a financing tool that will significantly reduce the energy cost of its beneficiaries. It is a crucial step towards sustainable energy solution in Lebanon. It aims to support Lebanese businesses and promote the country's energy independence while addressing the energy crisis. It is also a long-term investment in Lebanon's future. I wish I could say that for many of the challenges that we have today. The growth potential of the fund is certainly enormous, as we aim at more than $20 million for the first phase. The business case is clear, and the benefit for potential investors as well as recipients are beyond just monetary value, as we are calling on companies and investors to join us in our efforts to promote sustainable energy solutions in Lebanon. Moreover, the success of the fund will depend on collaboration and partnership with all the stakeholders. We are sure that this initiative will contribute to economic growth, reduce waste, and encourage similar actions for a more sustainable and prosperous future for our country. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Maroon. The United States government, through the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, continues to support Lebanon in its revival efforts by enhancing economic opportunities and promoting sustainable environmental solutions. This support is well appreciated by the Lebanese people as it helps grow the economy, create jobs, and improve livelihoods. Please join me in welcoming Her Excellency, U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon, Ms. Dorothy Shea.
Marhaba wa masal al-khair. Good evening, Your Excellencies, Minister of Energy, Fayad, Minister of Environment, Yassin, Minister of Industry, Bouchikian, Beritech Chairman and CEO, Maroun Shamas, and General Manager of IM Capital, Dr. Nicolas Rouhana, TIF Chief of Party, Mark Rostal. Where did you go, Mark? There you are. And all of you distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure. I'm just really delighted to be with you today for this launch of the Solar and Renewable Energy Fund. This initiative, managed by USAID, is the first of its kind in Lebanon. And this is not the US government's first response to Lebanon's energy crisis, nor will it be our last. Since 2012, the United States government, through USAID, has been providing affordable, and renewable backup electricity to homes and businesses. In fact, we recently launched the $30 million Inara project to provide, yes, we love Inara, to provide reliable and safe renewable electricity. USA Administrator Samantha Power announced 22 new renewable energy projects across Lebanon during her visit here last November. So I don't need to tell you this. We all know Lebanese businesses are struggling in this current economic crisis. They have limited access to financing, and their capital accounts, like those of all depositors, are trapped in Lebanese banks. For years, Lebanese enterprises relied on unsustainable and costly energy sources, harmful to the environment. Dependence on diesel-powered electrical generators, mazout, and intermittent government delivery of power has been taking a toll on finances, productivity, and competitiveness. To offset high energy costs, the US government, through USAID, put together this $20 million Solar and Renewable Energy Fund to finance the purchase and installation of solar systems, primarily solar. The fund will lend capital to enterprises at commercial rates, anticipating that the loans will be repaid within 2 to 3 years. This will come from savings on reduced reliance on diesel generators. Who wants to put the diesel mafia out of business? Can we do this? Yes. USAID has contributed $4 million in seed capital to the Solar and Renewable Energy Fund, and we're working to secure an additional $16 million from private investors and other donors. And I'm thrilled that we have some of those potential other donors with us here tonight as well. I urge all of the investors who are present here today to consider investing in the Solar and Renewable Energy Fund to sustain Lebanese enterprises while earning commercial returns on your investment. Sounds like a win-win deal to me. Through your investments and USAID's expertise, we can help local businesses reduce operating costs to sustain their operations and their employment levels. This fund will support the purchase and installation of solar generation systems for at least 25 businesses. And we expect that these businesses will cut their operating costs by at least 20%, reducing their expenditures on electricity and thereby boosting productivity and protecting Lebanese jobs. We are confident that Lebanese businesses and investors will seize this opportunity to capitalize on the Solar and Renewable Energy Fund to support Lebanon's economy, support the viability of Lebanese businesses, and protect Lebanese jobs. Together, we can build a cleaner, more productive tomorrow. Shukran.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And now we move to a presentation by Dr. Nicola Rohana, the Chairman and CEO of IAM Funding, grouping IAM Capital and IAM Ventures, respectively funded under USAID MENA Initiative and Lebanon Investment Initiative, after which a short animation on the fund process will be played.
Thank you, Danny. Hello. Hi, everyone. So first disclaimer, USAID is not responsible of the content, so I have to beware to not to say anything. Second disclaimer, for those who were waiting, there's no song, so there's no, if anyone waiting for me to do a performance, there's no song today. So let's get to business. So just for those who know, don't know, IAM Funding, so it's funded under USAID since 2014. So we're managing 2 funds. First one is IAM Capital. It's fully deployed. It was geared towards early stage. It was before the crisis of 2019. And the second fund, IAM Ventures, which started just after the October 2019 crisis, 38 million geared toward early and growth stage businesses.
And when the crisis started, and the program started at the same time, what we were presenting before the crisis was not more relevant anymore. So we talked to USAID, and it was really flexible enough to ask us to be relevant to the current situation and what's going on in the ecosystem, because all the ecosystem that was built before collapsed, as you might know. So we did 2 initiatives during COVID and the Beirut blast, etc. So the first fund was the SOSF, the Save Our Startup Fund, which funded 11 technology companies. Thank you. So yeah, it's fully funded. And by the way, it served its purpose because the companies are still alive. We had 1 exit, and other companies did further rounds of financing. So it really served the purpose, and it was relevant at the time. The year after, the SME fund, the SMEF, again, was geared towards SMEs, local manufacturing that had export potential, so such as agri-food, textile, and the likes. And again, we end up financing 6 or 7 companies to help them, further financing. And we actually replaced the banks, which was mentioned, are unfortunately still in existence, which normally they should fund these types of businesses. A few numbers. So over both funds so far, we've done 33 million of investments and leveraged, since we're a matching fund, $44 million in 50 companies that were funded by these investments and co-investments, creating 500 jobs, and out of which we have 35% women-led startups, which, by the way, is above the norm, which was published last week, about 24%. So I think we're doing well. Which brings us to the third fund, again, being relevant to the current situation, and being asked also by USAID to be relevant and to look at the energy sector, which there is an opportunity, and it's, as was mentioned, it was in a lot of crisis. So we sat down with the TIF, so it's bringing 2 USAID projects together to come up with a product, and we set some targets, obviously. So the target was to come up with a $20 million fund that will, invest in 20-25 local companies geared toward commercial and industry sector, by the way, because we're under economic growth, so this will help the economy grow, to help them install the upfront cost, because the upfront cost of renewable energy is rather expensive, and they probably wouldn't be able to afford it one shot. So this was the base of the idea. So we started by saying we need 4 million out of the 2 programs of USAID. So we have that ready in the first closing. And like was mentioned, we're looking for investors to come up with the remaining 16 million. So we're starting the tour de table, the fundraising as we speak. So I'll describe the financing period. So it's over 5 years. It's between 3 to 5 years. And the idea is to come up with a product that will help the companies save on their energy costs from day one. So not to be a burden on the beneficiaries. And we've obviously identified a pipeline of companies, which there's a lot of deal flow in this sector. Some key facts. So target 20 million. We're at the 4 million already committed. The sector, by the way, is sector agnostic, so anyone can apply, but we're going to cap the maximum of 25% of the fund to a current sector to be able to diversify. Up to 25 deals was said. So the instrument is a financing lease or a hire purchase agreement where the company would pay over 5 years, and then it's a lease to own type of agreement. There is no upfront fees, and with a possibility to do a prepayment to the remaining 2 years with a discount on the remaining balance. For the investors that are out there, this is 20% IRR, per year. So it's pretty interesting for a fund in Lebanon. Ticket sizes for the installations will go up between, the minimum is $200,000 to $250,000. Maximum would be 10% of the total fund size. Currently, we're at 4 million, so we can go up to $400,000 per ticket. Now, This is on the first, as we speak, this is the only legal thing we can do. Obviously, if in the future, and I have Dr. Fayad here, will say that when the DRE law will pass, we will be able to do, IPP type of investments, and we can be more creative in the approach. But today, by regulation, by law, this is what we can do, and we can finance at this stage. So here's how the money is flowing from USAID. So it goes through IM Ventures, 2 million, matched 2 million by the TIF project. And additional investors will come into the Solar Fund SPV, which will qualify renewable energy providers and pay them to install the beneficiaries, their solutions in the beneficiaries, which the beneficiary will, pay back the financing scheme over, as I said, either 5 years or 3 years, plus a discount on the remaining 2 years. And the installers will obviously do O&M maintenance over the period of the lease. Companies can apply. I mean, obviously, they have to have done their homework, have done an energy audit recently or ongoing, and have offers, obviously, from qualified renewable energy suppliers. They have to have savings at least more than 30% on their current energy consumptions. Having a project payback less than 5 years. Investment needed in 100K and 2 million, as I said, because this is a ticket size. Revenues of at least 500,000, to be able to pay back and to have the cash flow necessary to pay back, operating and being profitable, and have at least 20 employees. And since we're going through renewable energy suppliers, so also they have to be qualified technically. So again, there's a list of qualification criteria on our website. By the way, all this info is on the website, and I'll share it at the end. So all of this, again, there's a qualification criteria that we're working on with LCEC to be able to qualify the installers, so that we make sure that high quality is ensured and installed within the beneficiaries. The process is obviously a funnel, so we receive the applications, we review the beneficiary, we look at the financial, we do a financial due diligence with an appointed auditor, which will sit down with the beneficiary and look at the numbers, etc., of the company to make sure that it's a company that will be able to pay back. The cash flow is okay. Obviously, there's an energy audit or a walkthrough, or to make sure that whatever technical proposal is there makes sense, and answers both the financial and the savings of the solution. And here we're working obviously with TIF as well as with the industry experts sourced by TIF. Then everything is consolidated, and then we submit to an investment committee, selection committee, which, by the way, some of them are here. I will not say their names because then their lives will be in danger. So we'll name them later. And then submit it to the board of directors, which will sign off the investors, the investments. Voila. So this fund obviously will hit SDGs criteria targets. So as I said, 20-25 companies will save 30% plus, and depending on really the size of the savings that the company would want to install through renewable energy, sustain more than 400 jobs. Overall reduction in energy consumption, obviously, because not just the bill will be reduced, but the energy consumption as well, because again, with TIF, we're working on the energy audit to be able to maybe not just finance solar installations, but maybe be a holistic approach in the energy consumption, maybe change some machines, etc., that will maybe reduce more on the energy bill. If we take 20 million worth of investment, if we reach the 20 million, we might have 20 megawatt hour of renewable energy produced per year, which is quite good, and have 14,000 tons of reduction in CO2. So we're hitting quite a few SDGs in this fund. Now, a small exercise was done. I would say a big exercise was done by the team to come up with the financial scheme, as I said, and help reduce, the cent per kilowatt hour that a company pays per year. So we took a sample of companies, small scale, medium scale, and large scale, looked at their energy consumption, energy bill, etc., and we pass it through the system. And then if we take the average, of what happened, because some of the companies didn't have a PV installed, some did have PV installed and wanted to install more, so all this was combined, and then the savings are very considerable. So they might end up from day one saving 20% on their bill, including the financing, and later on, when the financing stops, it's all paid, it goes up to 40%. So it's really quite interesting. They're saving from day one up to 20%. So it's really a no-brainer for a company, because if they don't do anything, they'll spend more than if they actually got the financing and installed the PV. So it's really a no-brainer for companies to apply. And this shows the first line is the current situation. The second line in green is when they get financing, so they reduce really from day one. So if they do nothing, they would pay more than if they go through the financing. And on the long term, they would really reduce their energy bill post-financing. So voila, so we are actually open for business. We have the first 4 million that we can actually deploy. But one more thing before I close, I want to thank everyone that contributed to the presentation, the models, IM team, TIF team. It was quite fun, and it should be fun, else it doesn't make sense. And then now the fun begins, by the way, to do actually the investments. Voila, so thank you very much. Here are the contacts. Please flash the QR code, and voila, and please apply either to be an investor or to become a beneficiary. Now, for those who know me, before I go down and have the movie, there's a selfie that I need to take, with everyone behind me. So here it goes. Thank you very much.
Lebanon is facing an energy crisis. The high cost of energy, its impact on the environment, and the toll it takes on the economy and people's livelihoods are increasingly concerning. But there is hope. Renewable energy offers a sustainable solution to this problem. However, the high upfront costs and unavailability of financing to install renewable energy systems remain a significant challenge for many businesses. This is where USAID's intervention comes in through the work of the Trade and Investment Facilitation Project and IM Ventures in the Solar and Renewable Energy Fund. How is the fund structured? USAID's TIF committed $2 million to seed the fund and $500,000 to structure it. IM Ventures matched the amount with $2 million, creating a total of $4 million as a catalyst. With investors pitching in, the fund will raise up to $20 million or more. Who can apply? Lebanon-based companies that generate revenues of around $500,000 or more in USD equivalent, have more than 20 employees, are looking to invest between $250,000 to $2 million in energy efficiency or renewable energy solutions, are profitable and/or generate sufficient cash flow to cover the costs associated with the financing provided by the fund, and all sectors are welcome. Based on the selection criteria, a committee will choose businesses, subject to ultimate fund size, based on the company's energy savings vision and the potential impact on jobs and other economic indicators. Companies will be able to choose any energy service provider that is well established in Lebanon to implement their desired solutions. We are calling on interested investors to join us in this effort to offer critical energy financing support to Lebanese entities. The fund will attract a broad range of investors, including international development finance institutions, global and regional investors, and family offices. USAID support will allow companies to increase the hours of production, replace already scarce and expensive diesel fuel, reduce overhead expenses, and reduce negative environmental impact and pollution. USAID's intervention will lead to increased access to finance, increased revenues, improved management practices, and improved performance, sustaining operations and thousands of jobs and creating hundreds of new jobs. To apply for or invest in the fund, scan the QR code or visit IM's website. Let's work together to support the Lebanese economy and build a sustainable future powered by renewable energy. Join us today.
Thank you, Nicolau. With USAID continuous support, we will keep on advancing the investment ecosystem. I want to thank you all for being part of this important day for Lebanese businesses and for Lebanon's economic recovery. Now, please join us for a networking reception. Thank you so much for coming.